Hello, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Let me welcome you to The Takeout. We did not expect to start tonight with Article 92 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. We are, because a debate, if you can call it that, broke out today over what it means and calls by the President of the United States for charges of treason against 6 Democratic members of Congress. Treason, as you might know, is punishable by death. President Trump amplified a Truth Social post calling for the lawmakers' death by hanging. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where we are. Article 92 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice says service personnel must obey lawful orders. Failure to obey lawful orders can result in court-martial. There is, however, an important qualifier. Military personnel have a duty to disobey a manifestly illegal order.
All right, so a judge just told Donald Trump that the next time he violates a court order, he's going to jail. Not maybe, not possibly. The judge said it explicitly. If Trump keeps defying court orders, the next step isn't another fine or another warning. It's custody. It's Trump in handcuffs being taken to a jail cell. And this isn't some speculation or legal theory. This is Judge Juan Merchan in Trump's Manhattan hush money case, saying out loud what no judge has said to a president before. The patience is gone, the warnings are over, and if Trump crosses the line one more time, he's going to jail. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us. Be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
Well, the judge overseeing former President Trump's case issued a warning to the former president. Now, the justice there, according to the New York Times, telling Trump's lawyers to speak to Trump and those in his circle and tell them to, quote, refrain from making statements that are likely to incite violence or civil unrest. The judge, however, stopped short of issuing a gag order. But will Trump be able to contain himself? To discuss, I want to bring in Yahoo Finance senior columnist Rick Newman. So, Rick, let's talk about this, because what we heard from Trump after that last night in a speech from Florida, he really seemed to resort to his old habits. So it doesn't seem like he's going to be able to really hold back much.
Oh, he railed against everybody last night, not just the prosecutors who have now filed these short charges in New York and the judge overseeing the case. He went after prosecutors who haven't even filed any charges against him yet, including the Fulton County District Attorney in Georgia and the federal special prosecutor who's looking into obstruction of justice.
So here's what happened. During Trump's criminal trial in Manhattan, Judge Merchan imposed a gag order. And this wasn't some broad restriction on Trump's free speech. It was a narrow order designed to protect jurors, witnesses, prosecutors, and court staff from Trump's attacks. Because Trump has a pattern of going after anyone involved in cases against him, he attacks them on social media, he calls them names, he sicks his followers on them, and judges know that creates real safety risks and threatens the fairness of trials. So Merchan said, you can't publicly attack these people while the trial is ongoing. That's it. That's the order. And Trump immediately started violating it. He attacked witnesses on Truth Social. He went after prosecutors in public statements. He made comments about jurors. And every time he did it, Judge Merchan held him in contempt and fined him $1,000 here, another $1,000 there. The fines kept piling up. But Trump kept violating the order because Trump doesn't think rules apply to him. He thinks being a former president and current presidential candidate puts him above court orders. Well, Judge Merchan finally had enough. On May 6, 2024, Merchan found Trump in contempt for the 10th time. And this time, the judge didn't just impose another fine. He gave what ABC News called a final warning. Merchan said very clearly that if Trump continues to violate the gag order, the court will consider jailing him. Because the fines aren't working. Trump just pays them and keeps violating the order. So the next step, the only step left, is incarceration. And Merchan explained why. He said Trump's repeated violations are threatening the fairness and safety of the proceedings. Witnesses are scared to testify because they know Trump will attack them publicly. Jurors are worried about their safety and their family's safety. Court staff are getting death threats. and Trump's causing all of it by refusing to follow a simple court order designed to protect people. So Merchan's saying enough is enough. One more violation and Trump goes to jail. Now, Trump's response to this warning has been to keep pushing. He hasn't explicitly violated the gag order again in ways that have led to more contempt findings, but he's been testing the boundaries constantly, making comments that get close to violations, attacking people in ways that might not technically break the order, but clearly defy its spirit. And Trump's doing this because he thinks Merchan won't actually follow through. He thinks the judge is bluffing, that no judge would really put a former president in jail for contempt. But here's the thing, Merchan's not bluffing. Legal experts say judges have full authority to jail people for contempt. It's not even controversial. If someone repeatedly violates court orders, especially orders designed to protect the integrity of a trial, judges can and do impose incarceration. And federal law specifically allows criminal contempt referrals when a defendant's defiance becomes ongoing. So Merchan has every legal tool he needs to put Trump in jail if Trump violates the gag order again. And this isn't just about the Manhattan case, because Merchan's final warning sets a precedent. Other judges in Trump's other cases are watching this. They're seeing that at least one judge is willing to treat Trump like any other defendant who defies court orders. And that emboldens them to get tougher on Trump too. So in Trump's federal cases, in his other state cases, judges now know they can threaten jail for contempt and it won't be seen as unprecedented or extreme. Merchan already did it. So they can too. And Trump's in this impossible position now because his entire brand is about being tough and never backing down. He can't surrender. He can't admit a judge has power over him. He has to keep fighting and defying. But if he does that, if he violates the gag order one more time, Merchan's going to jail him, and then Trump's sitting in a cell. And all his tough guy posturing looks ridiculous when he's literally in custody because he couldn't follow a simple court order. So we're at this standoff, Trump refusing to surrender, Merchan running out of patience, and the next violation could trigger a constitutional crisis where a sitting president gets jailed for contempt. Because Trump's not just a defendant anymore, he's president again. So if Merchan jails him now, that's the president of the United States in custody, and nobody knows exactly how that works or what happens next. But one thing's clear, Merchan's not playing games. He gave his final warning, and if Trump crosses the line, the judge is putting him in jail. Okay, so let's dig into why this contempt situation is so serious and why Merchan's warning represents such a huge moment. Contempt of court is a powerful tool that judges have to enforce their orders and protect the integrity of legal proceedings. And there are two types. Civil contempt, which is designed to compel compliance, like holding someone until they produce documents they're refusing to turn over, and criminal contempt, which is punishment for defying court orders. What Merchan's threatening Trump with is criminal contempt. And criminal contempt can result in jail time even if you haven't been convicted of the underlying crime you're on trial for. So let's walk through what happened in the Manhattan case step by step. The trial was about Trump allegedly falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. And Judge Merchan imposed a gag order before the trial started. The order said Trump couldn't make public statements about witnesses, jurors, prosecutors, court staff, or their families. The purpose was to prevent Trump from intimidating people or creating a hostile environment that would make it impossible to get a fair trial. And this kind of gag order is pretty standard in high-profile cases. Judges use them all the time to protect the trial process. But Trump immediately started pushing back. He made posts on Truth Social attacking Michael Cohen, who was a key witness. He made statements about Stormy Daniels. He commented on the jury selection process. And each time, prosecutors would bring it to Merchan's attention and ask for a contempt finding. And Merchan would review Trump's statements, determine they violated the order, and hold Trump in contempt. The first few times, Merchan imposed fines, $1,000 per violation, which for Trump is basically nothing. He can pay a $1,000 fine without blinking. But the fines weren't stopping Trump. He kept violating the order. So Merchan kept finding him in contempt. By early May, Trump had been held in contempt 9 times, and the fines had added up to $9,000. But Trump clearly didn't care about the money. He was willing to pay whatever fines Merchan imposed because he valued his ability to attack witnesses and jurors more than he valued $9,000. So the fines weren't working as a deterrent. And that's when Merchan escalated. On May 6th, he found Trump in contempt for the 10th time. But this time, instead of just imposing another fine, Merchan included language in his order that got everyone's attention. He said that the court is keenly aware of and concerned about the possibility that continued violations might require incarceration as the next step. And he said that while he's reluctant to impose that sanction, he would have to consider it if Trump's conduct continued. That's as clear a warning as a judge can give. Stop violating my orders or you're going to jail. Now, why is Merchan reluctant to jail Trump? Well, for a few reasons. First, jailing a defendant during trial is a really serious step. It affects their ability to participate in their own defense. It creates logistical complications, and it can create grounds for appeal if the defendant claims they were unable to effectively assist their lawyers because they were in custody. So judges generally try to avoid it if possible. They use fines first, they give warnings, they try other sanctions, but if nothing else works, they jail people. Second, Trump's not just any defendant. He's a former president, and he was a current presidential candidate at the time of the trial, and he's now president again. So jailing him creates massive political and practical complications. There would be Secret Service issues, questions about how you secure a jail cell for a president, media circuses, political backlash. All of that makes judges hesitant to actually pull the trigger on incarceration, even when they have the legal authority. But Merchan's warning shows he's willing to do it if necessary. He's saying, look, I've tried fines and they're not working. You keep violating my orders. You're putting witnesses and jurors at risk. You're undermining the trial. So if you don't stop, I'm going to have to jail you regardless of who you are. And that's a really significant moment because it shows that at least one judge is willing to treat Trump like any other defendant who repeatedly defies court orders. And legal experts say Merchan has full authority to follow through. Federal law, specifically 18 U.S.C. Section 401 gives judges the power to punish contempts of their authority, and that includes jailing people for ongoing defiance of court orders. So if Trump violates the gag order again, Merchan can issue an order holding him in criminal contempt and directing that he be taken into custody, and that order would be enforceable immediately. Trump wouldn't get to appeal first and stay free while the appeal is pending. He'd go to jail right then. Now, would Trump actually go to jail if Merchan ordered it? That's a harder question, because Trump's president now, and there are real questions about whether you can physically incarcerate a sitting president. The Secret Service has a duty to protect him. They're not just going to let him be thrown in a regular jail cell, so there would have to be arrangements made, maybe house arrest with Secret Service supervision, maybe a secure facility, maybe some kind of modified custody. But the point is, Merchan has the legal authority to order incarceration, and if he does, there's going to be a massive constitutional and practical crisis over how to enforce it. And this contempt issue connects to Trump's broader pattern of defying court orders and norms. In multiple cases, Trump's been late producing documents, he's violated protective orders, he's attacked judges publicly, he's refused to comply with deadlines, and he's done all of this while claiming he's too busy or too important to be treated like a normal defendant. But judges are starting to push back. They're imposing sanctions, they're threatening contempt, and now Merchan's threatening jail. And that creates a precedent for other judges, because if Merchan can threaten Trump with jail and have it taken seriously, other judges can too. So in Trump's federal January 6th case, if he violates orders there, the judge can point to Merchan and say, look, another judge already warned Trump about jail for contempt. I'm going to do the same. And that makes it harder for Trump to argue he's being singled out or treated unfairly. Multiple judges across multiple cases are all reaching the same conclusion. Trump needs to follow court orders or face serious consequences, including incarceration. And Trump's defiance is creating real problems for the administration of justice. Because when high-profile defendants defy orders and nothing happens, it sends a message that powerful people don't have to follow the rules. Other defendants start thinking they can do the same. The public loses faith in the justice system, and courts lose their authority to manage cases. So judges have an institutional interest in showing that court orders apply to everyone, including former presidents and current presidents. That's why Merchan's warning is so important. He's drawing a line. He's saying, no matter who you are, you follow my orders in my courtroom. And if you don't, there are consequences, real consequences, not just fines you can laugh off, but jail time, loss of freedom. And that message needs to be heard not just by Trump, but by everyone watching these cases. Because the rule of law only works if it applies equally to everyone. All right, let's break this down because this is a really significant moment in Trump's legal battles. First, Judge Merchan found Trump in contempt 10 times for violating a gag order designed to protect jurors and witnesses. The fines weren't working. Trump kept violating the order, so Merchan gave a final warning. Second, that warning was explicit. The judge said the next violation could mean jail, not just more fines. This is the first time a judge has told Trump that incarceration is the next step. Third, Trump's response has been to keep testing the boundaries, refusing to fully comply while trying not to trigger another contempt finding. And fourth, Merchan's warning sets a precedent for other judges in Trump's other cases to get tougher on contempt and defiance. So let's start with why contempt is such a powerful tool. When a judge issues an order, that order has to be enforced or the court loses its authority. If defendants can just ignore orders with no consequences, the entire legal system breaks down. So judges have the power to hold people in contempt and punish them for defying orders. And that punishment can include jail time, immediate jail time. You don't get convicted of the underlying crime first. You just go to jail for contempt until you comply or until the judge is satisfied you've been punished enough. And Trump's been held in contempt 10 times in the Manhattan case. That's extraordinary. Most defendants would be in jail long before reaching 10 contempt findings. But Merchan's been patient because of who Trump is. He started with fines, hoping that would be enough. But Trump just kept violating the gag order. So finally Merchan said, okay, fines aren't working, jail is next. The gag order itself was narrow and reasonable. It didn't prevent Trump from defending himself publicly or criticizing the prosecution. It just said he couldn't attack specific witnesses, jurors, prosecutors, and court staff by name. The purpose was to prevent intimidation and protect people's safety. And Trump violated it repeatedly. He attacked Michael Cohen. He made comments about Stormy Daniels. He talked about jurors. Every time prosecutors pointed out a violation, Merchan agreed and held Trump in contempt. And Merchan's final warning was very clear. He said if Trump continues to violate the order, the court will have to consider incarceration because nothing else is working. That's not a suggestion. That's a judge telling a defendant that jail is coming if the behavior doesn't stop. And Trump heard that warning. He's been more careful since. He hasn't had another contempt finding in that case. But he's also been testing the line, making statements that get close to violations without quite crossing over. And that shows Trump's strategy. He's trying to defy the judge as much as possible without triggering the jail consequence. He's calculated that Merchan's probably bluffing, that no judge would actually put a president in jail. So Trump's going to keep pushing until Merchan actually follows through. And that's a dangerous game. Because if Trump miscalculates, if he crosses the line one more time, Merchan's going to order him jailed, and then we're in a constitutional crisis. Because how do you jail a sitting president? The logistics are insane. Secret Service has to protect him 24/7. You can't just throw him in a regular jail with other inmates. So it would have to be some kind of modified custody, maybe house arrest, maybe a secure facility. But the point is, Merchan has the legal authority to order it, and if he does, someone has to figure out how to enforce it. And this creates precedent for Trump's other cases. Judges in the federal January 6th case, in the classified documents case, and state cases, they're all watching what Merchan did, and they're thinking, okay, if Merchan can threaten jail for contempt, so can we. So if Trump starts defying orders in those cases, those judges can point to Merchan's warning and say, we're doing the same thing. Stop violating our orders or you're going to jail. And that's a problem for Trump because he can't comply with all these orders and still do what he wants politically. He wants to attack prosecutors and judges. He wants to intimidate witnesses. He wants to play to his base by acting tough and defiant. But if he does that, he's going to violate gag orders and court orders. And if he violates them, he's going to face contempt. And now multiple judges are saying contempt means jail. So Trump's stuck. He can't surrender and follow the rules because that makes him look weak to his supporters. But he can't keep defying judges because eventually one of them is going to jail him. And once he's in custody, even briefly, the tough guy image is shattered. You can't claim to be strong and in control when a judge just put you in jail. The broader issue here is whether the legal system can actually enforce rules against Trump. For years, Trump's operated on the assumption that he's above the law, that being rich and powerful means he can ignore rules that apply to everyone else. And for a long time, he got away with it. He settled lawsuits, he paid fines, he delayed cases. But now he's facing judges who are saying, no, you're not above the law. You will follow my orders or face consequences. And Mershon's final warning is the clearest example of that. A judge telling Trump to his face that jail is coming if he doesn't comply. And Trump having to actually consider whether he's willing to risk that. Because jail is different than fines. Jail means loss of freedom. It means being in custody. And even for Trump, that's serious. The question now is whether Trump will keep pushing or whether he'll back down. If he backs down and follows court orders, he avoids jail but looks weak. If he keeps pushing and violates orders, he looks tough but risks actually going to jail. And if he goes to jail, even briefly, that's a massive political and legal crisis. So Trump's calculation is going to be whether the political benefit of defying judges outweighs the risk of incarceration. And Mershon's bet is that the threat of jail will finally make Trump comply, that Trump doesn't actually want to go to jail and will back down when faced with that reality. But Trump's entire career has been about never backing down, about always fighting, about refusing to surrender. So this is a real test of wills between Trump and the judicial system. And whoever blinks first is going to define how Trump's treated in all his other cases going forward.